See you as always, Trevor. How are you?
I'm fine, Matt. You're now introducing the title every Sunday morning just to annoy me, aren't you?
It's not. It's not a conscious thing. The thing is, you wear it so well. I'm sort of marginally envious. That's what it is.
Only when I have the horse.
OK. Is that what you get when you get a knighthood? You get all that regalia and the sword and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I've got a horse. He's called Fat Norman.
OK. Well, we're not going to better it in this chat, but let's give it a whirl nonetheless. Look, you had some real big hitters on the show this morning, both from Conservative and Labour. Angela Rayner up first, the Deputy Prime Minister as well. And there's all sorts of stuff swirling around her this week about leaks and intrigue and disagreement. But I was interested that you asked her what her ultimate ambition was within the party. Does she want to take the top job? Here's what she said.
And I don't want to be leader of the Labour Party. I'm very happy and honoured to do the job.
What kind of politician are you? You don't want to be leader of your party?
No, I'm very happy and honoured and to be Deputy Prime Minister of this country. And I've got a lot in my in-tray to prove that I can do the job that I'm doing and deliver on the milestones for the people of this country. That's what I'm interested in, Trevor.
You know this is being recorded, don't you? Because actually, that means one day, if you do, somebody's going to play it back to you.
Absolutely. I'll be happy for you to play it back to me. I have no desire to go for the leadership of the Labour Party. My desire is to deliver for the people of this country who have given me opportunities beyond what I could have dreamed of.
Say the word never.
Never.
I mean, it could happen by default, of course, if you're Deputy Prime Minister. Let's not forget that slim possibility, Trevor. But do you take her at her word there? Because we've heard about the leak of her ideas for what should be done to raise the finances of the Exchequer this week. Useful for her that got out somehow as well, and suggesting that all is not rosy in the Cabinet.
Yes, indeed. And it's interesting, isn't it? The panel that we had on this morning, three very seasoned observers of politics, all looked at me and went, "You don't believe that, really, do you? You don't really believe that she's never going to go for it." And funnily enough, call me naive, I sort of think right now, this morning, that's actually what she does think. Now, she might change her mind, but I don't think she's motivated by that. I think what's actually happening is that we're beginning to see the choices emerging in the Labour hierarchy about how they deal with two things. First of all, the deteriorating situation of the economy. Rachel Reeves says we've still got to balance the books, stick to the rules, we've got to prove that we can be trusted. Angela Rayner is now beginning to say, yeah, but you know what? We need to demonstrate to people who elected us that we meant it when we said that we were going to attack the cost of living, that we were going to help them, we're going to help with the welfare and so on and so forth. And the other thing I think that is emerging is a different view about how to deal with reform. They're now 7 points adrift of reform, Labour, and I think there's two different points of view. One is that you've got to tackle the issues that reform is raising, immigration and so on. So we saw 2 weeks ago tough language from Keir Starmer on immigration. And the other is that you've got to show that Labour is in its traditional clothes, which means spending, again, more on welfare and so on. So it's not a split, but the different points of view are beginning to emerge, and they're actually, I think, having a proper argument about it.
I'll come on to reform in a second, because it's something I know you asked the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch about, because whether it's Labour or Conservative, Nigel Farage is there like a spectre hanging over both of them at the moment. But before we do, the two-child benefit cap is back as that political football, and it is a point of disagreement between the two largest parties. And it's pretty totemic for some on the Labour side, isn't it, in terms of solving what is an embarrassing problem for a rich country like ours as to how many kids are in poverty.
Yeah, indeed. It's an iconic issue for many Labour members of Parliament. If you decide that you want to put a threshold, essentially, of 2 children. For some people, that is responsible. For other people, that means that you're punishing families for doing something which is perfectly natural. And I think a division is emerging. It's worth saying that some of those around the Prime Minister are saying, honestly, everybody, you've got to grasp that most Labour voters think of this partly as a moral issue.
Yeah.
And that is to say, if you decide you want to have a lot of children, you can't depend on the rest of the community to support you in that. A reasonable number, set it at 2, everybody should pitch in. But if you start to go long beyond that, why should everybody else be supporting you?
There's a couple of issues that come out of this, isn't there, Trevor? On the left side of the party, which Angela Rayner firmly is, there are moves to challenge this because, of course, it was a policy that they inherited from the Conservatives. It's not a Labour policy and shouldn't be for a lot, certainly on that side of the party. But as I mentioned with that leak of what Angela Rayner thinks should be done in terms of potentially raising a wealth tax and where other cuts might come from, it puts the Chancellor in between a rock and a hard place, doesn't it? That growth that they so crave isn't happening. Money needs to be raised, but she's not going to raise it on the financial markets, and she's adamant she won't put up taxes. What do they do?
Well, that's right. It's worth saying, by the way, one of the interesting things about Angela Rayner is that she is characterised as being on the left of the party. And there's no question that I think, in her heart of hearts, she doesn't really think that they should die on the hill of the fiscal rules, no borrowing, no tax rises, and so on. She thinks that, I think I could see in her eyes that she's a person who thinks, honestly, we've got to keep faith with our people, and that might mean some spending.
Yeah.
Having said that, what's also interesting is that she is absolutely clear and what you might call an old Labour rather than a left-wing position, which is the most important thing in the world is good work that is well paid, and that is more important than getting more welfare.
Yeah.
And that's quite a complicated, nuanced position.
Yeah, well, she mentioned her personal story of putting herself up by her bootstraps and defying all the odds to do what she's gone on to do. And her
It's very
personal
old
stories.
school, that.
It's an interesting one. Look, they've moved on the child poverty plan to later in the year, and we'll see what they'll do with the 2-child benefit cap. Kemi Badenoch is firmly of the opinion that it should remain, having been a Conservative policy. But you did ask her about that man who just doesn't seem to go away for the Conservatives, Nigel Farage. Here's what she had to say.
Nigel Farage is someone who's going to say whatever it is he wants in order to get into power. I'm taking the hard road. I'm not going to do that. We spent years chasing polls, telling people what they wanted to hear and not delivering. He is doing that now. He's making the same mistake that Keir Starmer made of making promises and then they'll get into government and can't deliver it. We're going to do this the hard way, but the right way, the moral way.
Are you envisaging that Mr Farage could get into power? As you say, Mr Starmer made promises, got into power. Mr Farage is making promises. Could he get into power?
Well, I hope not, because it would be very bad for this country.
Let's reflect, Nigel, I called you Nigel then, sorry, Trev.
What is going on here?
That is, yeah.
I'm leaving now.
God knows where that came from. Apologies. Anyway, Trevor, let's reflect just to finish off on the net migration figures here, because this is key. And the Conservatives have tried and probably can take credit for putting in some of the things that brought those figures down by half. Still high at over 450,000, but nonetheless, they would have tackled it, they would argue.
Yes, and James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary, was out and about this week saying, let's cut in net migration from 800,000 plus in the year before last to 431,000 this year. That is me. That's my doing. The rules that we brought in to stop dependents coming and so on, that made the difference. Now, the problem, I think, for Kemi Badenoch and Paul Goodman, who is probably, in my view, one of the best Conservative commentators around, is that, she speaks English. She talks like a human being. You're never in any doubt what she says. She doesn't prevaricate, but somehow it is not doing her much good with the public. And especially when she's confronted with the communications juggernaut called Nigel Farage. That's why they are now, 10 points adrift of reform in the polls. That's the task that they deal with. And Paul Goodman made the very strong point, I think, that the Conservatives have got to get a message that is clear, and they've got to get it across on the economy, on migration, on health. And at the moment, I don't think they're doing that very successfully. That, I think, is Kemi Badenoch's big task for the next year, between now and next year's local elections.
She still gets your name right, though, as well, Trevor. Good
yeah,
to
I
see
know.
you.
I've got to get it right. Otherwise, she comes in and, she punches me.
It was anyway, Freudian slip from me. Good to see you, as always. Have a good bank holiday.